Hey everyone, welcome to Cuberviews, episode 53. This is your host, Ian Braverman. I hope you're having a really great day so far and a happy 2026. We're recording this the first week of January. So today I'm joined by Jordan Kruis. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing quite well. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Glad to hear. We met at CubeCon last year, which will be 2025. And
Yes.
it was great meeting you there. You had this cube that we're going to be talking about today in the Lavender Desert in the event. How was CubeCon for you?
CubeCon was great. I got to play a bunch of cubes, some desert cubes. Actually, while we were at CubeCon, you suggested that I play Circle of Life, which I did, and I really enjoyed that one. I also really enjoyed Ginger Cube, particularly, which is one where you get ginger brutes in the basic land station. I just love how many different types of cubes there are at CubeCon.
It's so funny. There's so many cubes last year. I didn't even know about the ginger cube. Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
There are more than anybody can keep track of.
Yes. Yeah, I heard a lot of great things about your cube. For example, my friend Kyle, he drafted the cube and he actually sent me a deck photo. So I'm going to pull that up. He went, of course, Jeskai. He told me to say that Mantis Rider was the best card in the cube.
Oh, Mantis Rider is so underrated, I feel. Like it's just a French vanilla creature, just the 3 flying, haste, and vigilance, but it can pack a punch.
Yes.
I'm glad that went well for him.
Yeah, tell us a little about yourself, your history with Magic, your hobbies outside of Magic, what you do for work.
Yeah, so my history with Magic and Cube is different than most that I've heard. I have a deep background in board games. I've been playing board games for most of my life. I didn't really get into Magic when I was younger, whether because of expense or it seemed like the player base was a little bit toxic where I saw them and very competitive, and I wasn't super interested in that. I actually ended up getting into Star Wars Destiny as my first TCG, got really into that, and then towards the beginning of the pandemic, they canceled it, and I decided that I wanted to build a cube with Star Wars Destiny. One of my friends had talked to me a little bit about Cube, and I think he was specifically talking about a powered vintage cube for Magic, and I wanted to do the same thing. And all of the information that I could find about Cube was about Magic, because it is the place to cube, the game to cube with. So in learning about how to make my cube for Star Wars Destiny, listened to so much Magic content that I was like, oh, I should really give this a try. It's been in the background for the entire time that I've been playing board games, but I had never gotten into it. And so during the pandemic, I had also watched a lot of Magic content from people like Day9. I watched a bit of the Command Zone. And so I learned how to play Magic just watching streamers and learning about Cube. My first times actually playing Magic were drafting Cube, which I don't think is very common. Actually, my first draft was when I was living in Kansas City, and it was also the first draft of the Spicy Ramen Cube.
Oh.
Just after CubeCon 2023, I believe.
And that's such an interesting story. Wow.
Yeah.
So you weren't actually trying to play Magic. You just wanted to learn Cube through Magic content. And then you were like, well, Magic doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, exactly. And I've said this before, that I am in Magic for Cube. And if there was a card game that was better at the drafting aspect and creating a draft environment, I might jump over to that. But I am really happy with the community I'm in here in Madison. So I don't see that happening anytime soon, switching to a different game, that is, for Cube.
So did you ever build the cube that you sought out to build in the first place?
Yes, I built it. It only got drafted twice. It's still completely built, just sitting in my basement. It's just hard to get people into a game through Cube because it's generally complex and you have to know how to play the game before you start drafting. So I haven't had a lot of opportunity to play it, especially since Star Wars Destiny has sort of gone by the wayside. I haven't found more players of it, but I still have it together out of nostalgia.
I bet there's a really niche group who is just like, this is the best thing ever. A Star Wars Destiny cube?
I loved that game, and I would love if somebody would reskin it with a different IP or something. It's a great game that I think was sort of hampered by being tied to Star Wars, both with the costs associated with that and I'll say the fall in interest in Star Wars after the end of the most recent
Yeah.
trilogy.
We'll get a Star Wars universes beyond soon enough anyway.
I'm actually not looking forward to that.
And what do you like to do outside of Magic?
Like I said, I play other board games. The other group that I play with here in Madison is a historical wargaming group.
Oh.
I really enjoy the Coin series of games, which is Coin stands for counterinsurgency. My favorite board game of all time is Here I Stand, which is an epic 16th century conflict in Europe surrounding the Reformation. That's one of the big things I do is playing other games.
That's awesome. Wow. That's a cool niche. I feel like that you're in two niches, Magic Cube and 15th, 16th century war games.
Yes.
And what do you do for work?
I am a project manager for an entertainment lighting manufacturer.
Entertainment lighting manufacturer. Interesting.
Yes. I worked in theater as a stage manager for almost a decade and found that I didn't have a lot of time outside of that. And most people like to play games in the evenings when I was working. So the opportunity came up for my spouse to get a job here. And it's a well-known company within the theater industry that makes lighting for theaters, now other things as well.
That's cool. I'm a huge musicals nerd. So
cool. You have probably seen some of our equipment then. Not knowing it. Yeah.
What's your favorite musical?
My favorite musical? I love Les Mis, but I also really like Newsies. I like anything that's has some sort of revolution aspect going in the background.
Yeah. I just saw the traveling cast of Les Mis actually in Florida, and it was
awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And today we're going to be talking about the Lavender Desert, which is a low curving Jeskai colored desert cube. So do you like Jeskai because it's like America and revolution?
No. In fact, I lean very much into the lavender being the combination of those colors. Like if you mix those colors in a subtractive color theory sense, it becomes lavender. I'm not particularly patriotic, but I love how the Jeskai colors work together. I love the themes that flow through them, and I just naturally gravitate towards Jeskai whenever I'm drafting other cubes.
What about Jeskai do you like so much? What are the parts of Jeskai that bring you in?
Yeah, Jeskai just has so many of my favorite archetypes. It has artifacts, non-creature spells matter, cycling. Modular is more just in Boros, but I found ways to bring blue into it as well. Those are often the things that I gravitate towards playing. And so I wanted my cube to celebrate those things.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jeskai. I mean, I've played many Jeskai decks in my past. Like I usually play Bant, I think, as the listeners know. But like, for example, one of my favorite modern decks that I ever played was Jeskai Cat Combo Saheeli. That was in modern. That was one of my favorite decks ever. It was not very good, but it had Cryptic Command, it had Snapcaster Mage, Pat the Exile, Felidar Guardian, Little Teferi. Oh, it was just, it's a perfect deck, you know? Let's go back to the good old days.
Yeah, one of my favorite decks that I never played, but was one of the decks that I enjoyed watching the most was the Jeskai cycling deck that came out in standard around...
Oh, I remember that deck.
Yeah, around...
Ikoria?
Yeah, Ikoria and Eldraine. And watching that deck be played made me excited about Magic in a lot of ways.
That's so interesting.
I wasn't playing yet, but yeah.
Because I would say one of the maybe banes and biggest issues with Ikoria Limited was Zenith Flare.
That's fair. And it's in the cube because I like it.
Oh yeah, we'll get more into cycling later. I love
Yes.
cycling as an archetype. I have it in one of my cubes. It's great. But another big part of this cube, of course, is that it's a desert cube. That's something that is really interesting to me. I think that we both saw it, like we were talking about at CubeCon last year. I think last year was really the explosion of desert cubes. Like it really feels like so many of the CubeCon cubes are desert cubes. And I'm always curious. Like I spoke to Derek Gowan and he was wondering, like, what makes somebody choose to make their cube a desert cube? Like, how does being a desert cube enhance your cube's experience?
I really like the aspect of, in addition to drafting the pieces of your engine, you're also drafting the resources necessary for that engine. I mentioned that I'm started in board games, and one of the board games that really made me excited about drafting was Seven Wonders. I don't know if you've ever played that.
Yeah, I've played that one before.
But it requires you to draft your resources in the first stage before moving on to drafting the things that are going to get you points. And so it just seems natural to me to have to draft your resources. And since I came in not with the background of Retail Limited, where you have the land station, it just made sense to me. And also, the first cube that I drafted after moving here to Madison was Kai's Fist is Adventured.
Oh, yeah.
And they talked about using a desert draft to push people towards multiple colors. And part of what I wanted with Lavender Desert was to push people into all three colors. It's definitely possible to play two colors, and a lot of people have great success playing only two. Far fewer people have success playing monocolor in Lavender, but I sort of wanted to push the archetypes across all three colors. I wanted to push people to play all three colors, and Desert Cube is a way of doing that if you craft your lands to have a lot of multicolored lands and be like, oh, I drafted this Azorius land a while ago just because I needed another white land, but now there's this blue card that I want to put in. It allows you to, like I said, spread out across all three colors.
That makes a lot of sense that you're pushing players to kind of draft all three colors. As a big inspiration for you, it sounds like, was the Vistas Unventured cube, which of course that cube kind of is meant for you to be like 3+ colors at least.
Yeah.
And reading your outline, it sounds like, from talking to you here, it sounds like you definitely are like a big fan of lands, which I think is really cool. And sounding like from your background of being in board games and not really being a drafter first, it sounds like you don't really have the preconceptions or, like, I would say, the habits from normal limited that, oh, there's a basic land box. So if you didn't have that experience, it's not going to be the normal thing to you. And why not do desert? You know?
Yeah. I also think lands give an extra texture to Magic that is lacking in other games that have sort of abandoned that to avoid the pitfalls of having lands, like Mana Screw and Mana Flood being the biggest reasons that people move away from that when designing new TCGs. But I really feel like there's such great texture to having lands that do more than just activate for mana, and lands that come into play tapped sometimes and not other times, and having to think about those aspects of your resource system, I find really interesting about Magic.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, looking at the lands here, you definitely have like a good amount of basics in each of the three colors, in white, blue, and red. But at the same time, I totally see what you're saying. Like, I see a lot of different utility lands in individual colors. Like, for example, the artifact lands, or man lands, or cycling lands, channel lands. And then even like outside of one color lands, like plenty of colorless lands too, or fetch lands. And I totally agree. I've never understood why people don't like the lands part of Magic personally. I think that it adds such an interesting texture of, oh, what colors am I going to put into my deck? The color pie. How am I going to be able to fit in all these different cards that maybe have really intense pip requirements, or wanting to splash something, and it creates more variance and potential for Mana Screw, but having more powerful cards in your deck too. I think that's really interesting. This cube includes a lot of different cool lands, like we were talking about. Like, artifact lands. You have an affinity deck in here, cycling lands, like we were saying, for the cycling deck, and also second card drawn deck, which I think is a really interesting theme we'll get into. And then like bounce lands, you mentioned in the outline, you have like Cloud of Fairies, Archaeomancer, Ghostly Flicker combo. I love that combo. In my Peasant Cube, I have Peregrine Drake, Archaeomancer, Ghostly Flicker. It's so good. Tell me about the different lands you have in here.
Yeah, you mentioned the basic lands in passing, but one of the things I like is having all of the different basic lands that I do. They're all full art. I love landscape painting, and these are just some beautiful lands that I really like that I get to show off in my cube. So them as playing pieces aside, I just love the art that is in a lot of these lands. I also like getting people to play lands that they probably wouldn't draft in another cube. Lands that enter tapped. You mentioned the cycling lands. Even in a cycling deck, you sometimes don't want to have those tapped monocolored cycling lands. And just being like, oh, this is the land you have, this is the land you get to play, is sometimes what I enjoy about that. One of my favorite lands is Glimmer Void, which in a lot of ways has a huge downside of having to sacrifice it if you don't control any artifacts, but allows you to add 1 mana of any color. And I like that one in particular for that conflict between getting a land that can tap for any color, but also having to possibly sacrifice it if you don't have any artifacts anymore.
Glimmer Void just brings me back to being tortured by Lantern Control in Modern. I have flashbacks.
I'm sorry.
But I totally agree. I think that's a really interesting part of Desert Cubes is that you can kind of force people to play lands that they probably wouldn't want to play because, I mean, they need enough lands to succeed. This cube even has desert in it.
Yes.
Like literal desert.
And there's one player in our play group who hates that it's in there. And every time they see it, they complain about it. And it's not getting cut, partially because of the fact that it's desert in a desert cube.
It's so on theme. It's a desert.
But also because sometimes you'll get to the end of your third pack or get near the end of your third pack and realize, oh, I am short 2 lands. And here comes that desert the second time it's been passed around. I'm going to take it because I just need another land.
Yeah.
So I like having some of those lands that aren't as good that will go around the table a couple of times so that if somebody hasn't drafted all of their lands, they have another chance at getting maybe a substandard land, but still another land.
And this cube also has a lot of the MDFC lands, which I'm a big fan of, like a lot of these like Pinnacle Monk, Witch Enchanter, Sink into Super. Tell me about the MDFCs. How have they played?
Yeah, I love them for the simple fact that they're both a land and a spell. You can count them as either when you're building your deck. And they've played really well. I've had spells countered by Jawari Disruption and had Jawari Ruins be the blue land that I needed, the one blue land that I needed. So just having both options is great. I would love to add more of the dual colored that came out in MH3. So I have Legion Leadership / Legion Stronghold, which is the Boros, but the Izzet land and the Azorius
they deal
land
with energy.
that deal with energy. And I thought about adding energy as a theme to this cube just so I could add them, but I decided that it was more parasitic than I wanted to deal with. And so I would love another set of those dual MDFC lands.
I'm sure we'll get more MDFCs. Modern Horizons 4.
Yes.
My favorite thing to do with the MDFC creatures by far is to blink them with Ghostly Flicker.
Oh,
that's powerful. Because then you get them back as the creature on the other side. Woo!
Yes, I've seen that done. It is pretty great. Unfortunately, you can't do that with the spell lands, the instant sorcery lands, but
true, that doesn't work. And tell me about like the ratio of lands to non-lands in your cube. I was looking at a few different desert cubes. I was doing a little bit of research. Like, for example,
Yes.
Dragons of Winter's Night, which is another desert cube that I add on here with Chill, has
Mhm.
432 cards and 34% lands. Amonkar Desert by Bones has 480 and about 33% lands. This cube has 416 cards and 35% lands. How do you pick the lands to cards ratio? Is that kind of like formula somebody has created that people follow when they're making desert cubes?
I've heard that somewhere between 33 and 36 is around where you want to be, but really what I looked at was how many lands per player in an 8-player draft, and I have 146 lands, which is just over 18 lands per player, which is a comfortable enough amount to have some people playing 16 and some people, if you want to play like a control deck that you want 18, you can relatively easily get to that. And it also leaves a little bit of wiggle room if somebody overdrafts lands,
Yeah,
that you have enough. I didn't see it as percentage of the cube as much as lands per person.
that makes sense. So when I accidentally end up with 13, it's my fault.
And honestly, for a little while, I experimented with not having the entire cube drafted, and I thought that the fail case was just too high a price. That the chance that the undrafted portion of the cube was all lands and everybody has 12 to 13 lands would just end up in a whole bunch of non-games that were undesirable. I would like to have that in an ideal world where I could make sure that that didn't happen. I would like to have more space and have some cards undrafted, but like I said, the fail case, that's one of the downsides of Desert Cube is that fail case of you don't have enough lands in the draft itself.
You'd have to do some weird pack seeding.
Yeah. And
I'm a fan of pack seeding, but we'd have to get weird.
Yes, pack seeding is great, but one of the benefits of Desert Cube is that you don't have to
It's not even a land
sort
station.
anything.
Just shuffle up and you go.
Yeah, exactly.
I've definitely experienced that too with desert cubes that I've seen where it's like, we don't have 8. We're not playing this one. Anyone else got another cube?
Yeah, no. And yeah, sometimes we'll play with 7 and it's always a question of, oh, will there be enough lands in the
Or the extra
draft?
50 cards or something, all lands.
And it has worked out every time, but it's just a little bit uncomfortable not knowing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, to the listeners, if your play group is maybe like 6 people, maybe build your cube to be for 6 if you're building a desert, because yeah, it can be a little sketchy to have some cards undrafted with a desert cube.
Yeah, actually, one cube that I've been working on for probably a year and very slowly working on it is a Golgari 6-player desert cube.
That's so funny. Like, it's how I have my Rakdos cube,
yes,
my bank cube.
Exactly. When I heard you talk about that on the show, I thought immediately of that. I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want, to have the other 2 colors, because another of my favorite cards is Mosswood Dread Knight, which I don't get to play in the Jeskai cube.
You can put it in there. It'd just be really hard to catch.
But again, Jeskai is really where my heart is, so it's taken me a long time to sort of build that cube, and it's not finished even yet. So
I don't like any of these green black cards. What am I going to put in?
Yeah.
For me, I was like, I have all these red black cards lying around. What do I do with them?
Because I didn't have this background in Retail Limited or in Magic in general, I don't have a huge
so you'd have to go out and buy all these green black cards. Like, who wants to do that? Not Jeskai. And we mentioned it before, but in my Peasant Cube, I also have a cycling theme. And I think cycling themes are really fun. I think that they have a lot of cross synergy into different archetypes. Like we talked about, this cube also has a second card drawn theme, which is great because when you cycle, you draw your second card. So that is very easy to have that overlap. It also fills your graveyard. Like for Delirium, if you have different types of different cycling cards, like one of the precons that I bought a while ago is the Ikoria Gavi precon, which I think it's cool that you have it in this cube, actually. It's a 2/5 for Jeskai and 2. You may pay 0 rather than the cycling cost of the first card you cycle each turn. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a 2/2 red and white dinosaur cat. So this precon was kind of like designed to mix those two themes. You already have that whole precon to work with.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I really loved seeing a cycling deck be played. And it was one of the first archetypes that I built into the cube. Gavi is a bit of a high price. Like you said, this is a fairly low curve. So 5 is about the highest you'll hit. And sometimes that's a bit too difficult, but it's such a cool payoff for cycling. I really like having that in there. One of the things I really like about cycling is that you get to see more of your deck than in a lot of decks that don't have other ways to draw cards. I also really like what Aether Drift has added to the cycling theme with a lot of discard matters. One of the biggest changes to this cube was when Aether Drift came out. And I wasn't particularly excited about the theme of Aether Drift, but it had so many mechanical pieces that worked so well in this cube.
Absolutely. Like one of my favorite cards from last year is Monument to Endurance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfect in a cycling deck. I mean,
Yeah.
3 mana, whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, draw a card, create a treasure token, or each opponent loses 3 life. I definitely, in my experience with my cycling theme and my peasant cube, was like, how does the cycling deck actually win the game? So, like, I had Lab Man in there. And then you also have it in this cube, Zenith Flare, 2 red, white, instant. It deals X damage to any target and you gain X life or X number of cards with a cycling ability in your graveyard. I think that maybe they also had the same issue in Ikoria Limited. They were like, how do we give that deck a win con? I don't know. Just they deal 20 to the face when they've discarded a lot.
Yeah, I will say one of the biggest ways to win with that deck is Ironcrag Pyromancer, dealing 3 damage to any target whenever you draw your second card each turn. And because it's a 0/4, it's a bit harder to remove. A lot of the burn removal is at 3, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to remove. And then, like you just mentioned, Monument to Endurance has that third, each opponent loses 3 life, that once you've drawn a lot of cards, you can often switch to hitting that over and over again to finish off people, even if you don't end up with the Zenith Flare to end the game in one big bang.
That standard deck was so annoying. Cycle. 20 to your face. Counter 20 to your face. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But when you play a cycling deck, you also get to play Astral Slide. But you don't have Astral Slide in here. You have Astral Drift.
I have Astral Drift, yes.
Why no Astral Slide? It's because it's symmetrical. That's always been a weird thing.
It's partially because it's symmetrical. It's also because there isn't a blink theme in this cube. Even though I know Azorius is the big blink colors, I don't feel like I need that redundancy of having both of them.
My heart, no blink theme.
I know. There are definitely things you can do with blink. You mentioned Ghostly Flicker earlier, which is definitely a way to blink things repeatedly with Archaeomancer. So you can have your Ghostly Flicker, your Archaeomancer, and whatever third part you want to that. Venser Shaper Savant has been one of the nasty ones where just turn after
buy
turn,
all your lands,
throw the lands back into your opponent's hand. So there's little pockets of blink that you could.
No Soul Herder though.
No Soul Herder.
My boy, you massacred my Soul Herder.
And I love a good blink deck. It just wasn't what I wanted to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of cycling, especially because one of my favorite things to do in Cube when putting in packages or archetypes is to have cards that are like good role players in other decks, but also can kind of have a central theme and work toward another theme. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, a lot of the cards with cycling can also fit into other decks. Like, for example, a removal spell that has cycling, or decent aggressive creature that has cycling. So I'm a big fan of cards that you can include that would fit a normal purpose, like being a removal spell or being a card draw spell. But then also you can just include a few payoffs for something like cycling. When you run these cycling cards, you're just adding a whole new deck to your cube without putting in too much effort, and maybe just putting in, instead of the first best card, the second best card that also has a cool build around, which I think is fun.
Yeah, one of my favorite cards, again from Aether Drift, was Sky Crash. And it's a very simple 1 and a red for an instant destroy target artifact and cycling for red.
Oh, I've never seen that. Yeah.
There are a lot of artifacts running throughout the cube. There are a lot of artifact themes. Even not a cycling deck, that card is definitely main deckable, in part because if your opponent is not doing much with artifacts, you can just cycle it away.
You can also get people with Censor. You have Jawari Disruption and Censor.
Yes.
You can super Force Spike people. We need to get Force Spike in here. We need to get it all.
I have thought about Force Spike.
Like another deck that I think is similar is the Enchantress deck. I like to put in like my Bant Cube, for example, because I include a lot of decent enchantments already. Like, for example, I already have Oblivion Ring effects, or I already have some auras that are pumping creatures, or enchantments that fit into other archetypes. For example, a Parallax Wave that's also for Blink. So I'm already including all the enchantment cards. Then you just need a couple payoffs, like a couple Enchantress effects that actually draw the cards, and then maybe 1 or 2 Enchantress win cons. And then, oh, I didn't have to try that hard, and now I have a whole Enchantress deck in my theme cube. So I think that's really fun to do here. And it also fits so well in the second card drawn archetype. I really like that archetype. I think it was like an archetype they've been slowly adding more and more support to over time. Speaking of Aether Drift, Thopter Fabricator. I have been a huge fan of this card, which is 2 and a blue for a 4/4 artifact vehicle with crew 2 flying. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you get a 1/1 Thopter with flying. I love this card. I play this card in multiple cubes, like my Trinket cube. It's great.
Yeah, I played that cube last night in Vince's Breaking the Oath cube and played it with Tezzeret as my commander. And even when I switched out Tezzeret for, I think I switched to Kasmina, it's still great with Kasmina because you're drawing and discarding when you use her ability and getting another Thopter whenever you do that. It's one of my favorite cards.
Yeah.
Certainly of recent years. Yeah.
So for the listeners, why should they put in cycling and second card drawn packages in their cubes?
I think cycling is good on its own, even if you don't have a full theme around it, or even if they're just partial themes. People will take cycling cards for that extra bonus of getting to draw a card if they can't use that spell at that time. That's one of the things I love most about cycling, is the modality of choosing whether to get a different card or play the spell that you have right then.
Yeah, I totally agree. And another interesting part of this cube is that it has some other restrictions that you put on it. Like, for example, there's no MDFCs that aren't at least a land on one side, no old border cards, almost no infinite combos, no singleton breaks outside of lands, no free interaction. Tell me about these other restrictions that you put on the cube.
Yeah, the no MDFCs that aren't lands on one side, or at least one side, I should say, is mostly for simplicity in the draft of knowing, oh, I know what this card does on the other side, rather than having to pull it out and look at the other side. That breaks down a little bit because some of them can enter untapped by bolting yourself, but for the most part, it adds simplicity to the draft itself. No old border cards is simply because I don't have that nostalgia for the old border. I wasn't playing then, and I don't particularly like the old border. I know that that's probably a hot take amongst many Magic players, but
you heard it here first. Jordan thinks that old border cards are disgusting, abominations.
I just don't particularly like how they look, and I know a lot of people really do. There are a lot of old border cubes that are really great and well loved, and I just didn't like them very much.
I think you need to take a look at the shooting star foils again. They're so nice.
The shooting star foils are beautiful. I will say that.
Full border blue foils. Ooh, they're the best.
And then no infinite combos. I just didn't want this cube to be about infinite combos. I like them in other cubes, but that's not what I wanted for this one. No free interaction. Similarly, I've enjoyed a lot of cubes that have that free interaction, but also the power level of this cube. I want to keep it somewhere in the middle that doesn't have that free interaction. Yeah. With the exception of a lava dart in the graveyard.
Yeah. That's really interesting to me about the no free interaction, especially because in my Bant cube, one of the biggest things that I've had to figure out, and this cube having red in it too, is making sure that blue decks and slower decks can deal with really fast aggro decks. How do the more slower decks, like a cycling deck or a control deck, handle something like a red-white aggro when there isn't any free counter magic?
Yeah, mostly with low-cost removal. This includes Lightning Bolt. It includes Path to Exile, which sometimes has the added bonus of your opponent doesn't have any basic lands in their deck. And I realized that I just said 2 non-blue cards. But slower decks also have access to several board wipes. We have Day of Judgment, Aetherize, Ill-Timed Explosion is one of my favorites, especially in the Discard Matters cycling crossover deck. And it used to have way more board wipes, and it ended up being a problem that it was way too easy to just, for a slow deck to win by just repeatedly wiping the board until they hit their big creature or build up a big creature. Yeah. So I don't find that I really miss free interaction. I do think there is a point to adding more at one cost. You mentioned Force Spike earlier. Maybe that would be a good fit. Spell Snare isn't currently in, and I think it could fit well because of how many 2-drops there are. I'll probably think about adding more at the 1-drop counter magic slot. But I want to keep the knowledge that if your opponent is tapped out, there's nothing that you can do. And the other side of that if you tap out, your opponent knows that you can't do anything else.
You mentioned it with when we were talking about like cheap interaction, like, oh, none of this is blue. That's something that I've also definitely experienced in my Bant queue, which is blue, white, and green cards only, where players have said, how does a blue deck deal with a mono white aggro deck effectively without having some other color like red or white in this case to be able to support it without dying too fast? Some cards I see in here are Unable to Scream that you have, or another one that I love is Hard Evidence. Tell me about how you've kept blue from dying too quickly.
And this is another thing with this cube pushing people into all 3 colors, is that blue on its own may not be able to hold up, but you add in red and white for the board wipes and the low-cost removal. Blue can be more of a supporting role. One of the pieces of feedback I got from CubeCon was that blue felt like it didn't have the power outliers that were in white or red. So I've been slowly working on that, and I think low-cost removal will be another addition to that powering up of blue.
They keep printing all these stupid broken white and red cards. Give us some. Blue needs the help. Blue is bad in Vintage Cube now. Haven't you heard?
Yeah, if you look at the stats from the powered cube on Arena, red and white are the best colors in Magic.
Are there any cards that you've purposely not included for power reasons? Like, for example, I don't see a Johnny or Felia in here. Or were they just like too busted and made the white aggro or red aggro deck too fast?
A Johnny is a modal double face card. Yes, so it didn't make it in for that reason. Felia similarly is definitely a blink card. I don't think I really considered it. One of the biggest and most egregious mistakes that I've made in this was adding Lelia.
That card's a house.
Which
oh my goodness.
took away games by itself on a regular basis. I replaced it with Inti, and I still think Inti might be
Inti's a pretty good one too.
a little bit too strong. So I'm considering downgrading again to Evora, who might even be too strong still. Yeah.
But no broadside bombardiers, no Ragavan, none of those broken cards.
Certainly not. Like I said, this is trying to be a more mid-powered cube than even a legacy cube, or honestly even a modern cube. And part of that is because of some of the pet archetypes that I want to have in here. Modular is one of my favorite mechanics. It doesn't really hold up to a much stronger cube.
Hey, don't diss my Arcbound Ravager. That card is good.
Arcbound Ravager is excellent, as is Arcbound Shikari.
Oof, that card's good too.
Yes.
Man, an MH3 draft? That card was rude.
Those cards are both great, but some of the other ones, like Arcbound Worker, need a little help. Need to be in an environment where they can shine.
Tell me about some of your favorite sleeper cards or packages do you think other people should consider trying in their cubes? Like a few cards that I noticed when we were talking about making blue be able to survive fast enough. You mentioned it, but I was curious. How has Aetherize felt? That card's really interesting to me. I've thought about putting it in Bant Cube.
The problem is it sometimes feels amazing and sometimes feels like nothing at all. If your opponent is only attacking with one creature over and over again that keeps getting bigger, like an Inti or a Lelia, it doesn't feel that great to just return it to their hand for a turn. For 4 mana, returning a 2 mana creature doesn't feel good. But there are also big blowout moments where your opponent taps all their creatures out to attack and you just aetherize them all away. Particularly, there's a tokens deck in here that is mostly focused around Convoke until they can get a big enough board to attack all at once. And for that deck, Aetherize can hold them in check pretty effectively.
You got to do the pen trick, like with Settle the Wreckage, and be like, I'll take damage, and then swing out, and they're like, Aetherize them.
Yes.
And another card that I love in here that I had in my old Legacy Cube, I wish the card had haste. It's just a little bit too bad, but I love it, is Backdraft Hellkite, which is 3 red, 4/4 flying. When it attacks, each instant and sorcery in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. And the flashback is equal to its mana cost. That card, it promises so much.
It really does. And I have not seen it do amazing things. I really like it. And I think you're right that if it had haste, it would be much better. But I like it as an opportunity. If you have something good in the graveyard, you can always bring it back. So maybe it's just more of a hopeful card than an actually good card. And I'm okay with having some cards that aren't very good, but are cards that you could build around and hope around.
Yes. And you have an equipments theme in this cube.
Yes.
Where's the Stoneforge Mystic? What's going on here?
Stoneforge Mystic, I don't think works with an equipment theme.
Oh.
It's about finding one specific equipment. It's not about being in a deck with a whole bunch of equipment, which is more what my theme is built around. So my great card from Final Fantasy, Firion Wildrose Warrior. Equipped creatures you control have haste. Whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it has this equipment's equip abilities cost 2 less to activate. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next upkeep. So that is the type of equipment theme that I want to be in here, is having a big board that has a lot of equipment rather than having the concentration on one or maybe 2 specific equipments that Stoneforge Mystic brings.
And that means Machinist Arsenal seems like it'd be perfect here. I was really curious. How does that card feel? I'm just adding it to one of my cubes. It's from Final Fantasy, 4 and a white. It has job select, so when it enters, you create a 1/1 hero, then attach this to it. And equipped creature gets +2/+2 for each artifact you control as an artificer in addition to its other types, and has equipped 4. This card, I'm very interested in this card. How has it felt?
It is a house. It can kill you out of nowhere, especially if you don't have any flyers, your opponent does, and suddenly they equip a Thopter token, and it's a 10/10 Thopter token.
Yeah.
or 11/11 probably.
This feels like big
And
cranial plating.
yeah, it can be devastating. But also for 5 mana, I want something that could be devastating in this cube.
It's a big equip cost, equip 4.
Yes.
It does sound really cool. I'm definitely interested in trying that more in my trinket cube. I'm afraid it'll be too strong if it's like a 10/10, like turn 5. But we'll see.
Yeah, try it out. See what happens. It's not been a problem in this cube, but it is definitely something to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, cranial plating is that card will kill you fast.
Yes, yes.
And how about we jump into a pack one, pick one here?
Absolutely.
Which is interesting because this cube is 4 packs of 13, which is an interesting number.
Yeah, it was for a long time 4 packs of 15. In the few months leading up to CubeCon, I was experimenting with different pack sizes and found that this had fewer cards that were just left over. And it was surprisingly easy to find the cuts necessary to get down to 4 packs of 13, which ends up being 416 cards. I like that it has a weird pack size and pack number, and it's just something a weird quirk of the cube that I enjoy.
I find players don't even notice. You don't even tell them the pack's a different size. Oh, whatever. Oh, I didn't wheel. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll read off the pack here. We have Arcbound Javelineer, which is a white for a 0/1 modular 1, so enters a 1/1 counter. And when it dies, you can move its counters onto another artifact creature. And you can also tap it and remove X counters from it to deal X damage to attacking or blocking creature, which I think that card is actually a throwback to Cation Javelineers, which is like a really old card, which I think I had from my bulk when I was a kid. I might be making that up. But we have Flood Farm Verge, which is a land from Dustmourn, tap stat of white, or if you have a plains or an island, it taps for blue also. We have Dragonwing Glider, 3 red, Vermiridan. So you get a 2/2 red rebel, I think is what it is.
Yes.
And it has equip 3 red, and equipped creature gets +2/+2 in flying and haste. And then I think when this enters, it attaches to the rebel.
Yes, correct.
We have Darksteel Citadel, artifact land, indestructible, tap for colorless. Outercur Waste, which is blue-white pain land. So you can tap for a white or a blue and take a damage, or colorless. Riptide Gearhulk. Ooh, when I saw this card, I was so excited. I was like, this card is a crazy blink payoff. Oh my gosh. And then it being a 2/5, doubling with Delny. Ooh, so good. This is 1 white, blue, 2/5, double strike prowess. When it enters, for each opponent, put up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls into their owner's library 1/3 from the top. You Teferi Tucket. This card is great. I love this card. Spell Queller, 1 white, blue, 2/3, flash flying spirit. When it enters, you exile a spell with mana cost 4 or less. And when it leaves, they get to cast it for free. Fiery Islet, blue-red horizon land. So pay a life and add blue or red. You can pay 1 and sack it to draw a card. Sprite Dragon, blue-red, 1/1, flying haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a counter on it. Azorius Charm, white and a blue, instant, choose 1. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. Draw a card, or put an attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's library. I actually ran this in Pioneer Blue-White Control, and I always thought this card was terrible, but everyone else was playing it, so it played better than I expected it to, actually. Then we have Glittering Massif, which is the red-white cycling land, originally from Amonkhet, but I like that they're continuing the cycle of these now.
Yes.
And it enters tapped, and you can cycle it for 2, and it's a mountain or a plains. Eroded Canyon, which is a desert, enters tapped, blue-red, and when it enters, deal 1 to target opponent. And then finally, Kaikar, Wind's Fury, which is very cool art. I haven't seen this art from Blueburrow. 3/3, 1 white, blue-red, flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get a 1/1 white spirit, and you can sack a spirit to get a red. So I think this pack is pretty interesting. What do you think of it so far?
Yeah, I like that there isn't one absolutely clear pick. If this pack had a fetch land, there's no question. There's only 3 of the fetch lands, so they are high priority picks.
Fetch lands are broken. They should just get rid of them.
I love a good fetch land, though.
Same.
I'm torn between two cards here. The first is a land, which is Flood Farm Verge. It is an untapped land, which is sometimes hard to come by. And it's also an untapped land that doesn't cause pain, unlike Adarkar Wastes and Fiery Islet. So if I were to pick a land, I think I'd go with Flood Farm Verge. If a non-land, I think I'd go with Sprite Dragon.
Mm.
And I think that's just how I'm feeling in this moment, that I want to start building around a prowess style deck with a good Sprite Dragon.
Interesting. This pack really annoys me. I'm gonna be honest. It has 3 great blue-white cards, and I like them all. But if I take them, somebody else is going to end up blue-white. But then again, this is a Jeskai cube, so everyone's going to be blue-white. So maybe I should just commit and take a good blue-white card because why not?
I will say Riptide Gearhulk is committing hard to blue-white because it has 4 colored pips.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that card is pretty powerful. But yeah, the white blue is pretty bad. I think I'm gonna take it just because I'm a monster.
Nice.
I love Teferi tucking. I don't know what to say. There's no Delmi in here, but I'll make it work. Yeah, everyone definitely let us know in the comments what you would take from this pack. It's a pretty interesting one. If you're gonna go with a blue-white card and cut me off, let me know. And yeah, thank you again for coming on, Jordan. Anything you want to say here before we wrap up the episode?
No, I don't think so. I'm not very active on social media, so if you want to look for me, probably the best place to look is on Cube Cobra. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh yeah, of course. Great talking with you. And definitely, if anyone happens to be in the area of Connecticut, we're always looking for more cubers. We cube every week at Games IRL, my local game store that we go to. So reach out to me on Discord if we're looking for more cube. And everyone, please like, subscribe, follow. I appreciate it, and hope to see you all soon, and have a great day.